povećaj background.
To start from the beginning, we've been drawing together since we were literally small children. Just going back and forth from each other, looking what we're doing and kind of developing at the same time. But then through life, we would kind of continue using this approach with other things, either graffiti or art. Day and night, large and small, bold and detailed, always this duality and always this kind of one thing that contrasts the other. So there's always a corresponding side to something because we kind of live through our life in this way. It's always been a duality for us. The aesthetic we're kind of using now is more like influenced by general contemporary art. We tried to stay away from this urban art aesthetic or street art aesthetic because we didn't relate to it that much, so we kind of wanted to keep a graffiti aesthetic and to combine it with a contemporary art aesthetic. We also like to portray in these new kinds of work a sculpture-esque quality, forms that are free-floating in space. So even if it's a more simple form or a more complicated form, it's always surrounded by space and gives it kind of a three-dimensional look, even if it's just a two-dimensional flat object on the wall. A thing that really influenced us was many of the sculptures built in the period of Yugoslavia, which had this abstract form, but it was very strong and freestanding and either geometrical or very simple. And I think we kind of wanted to emulate our version of this kind of art from the past. But in a new way, through a different medium. It's not sculpting, but it's painting, but it has again this kind of, at least our wish to create it, to have this feeling of something from this period. The reference to the sculptures is the scale. They used to make big objects, but we still haven't had the opportunity to make big objects, but we have had the opportunity to make big walls. So in this kind of sense, I can portray something monumental without having the opportunity to actually make a sculpture. Something that grabs you in this one moment, either quickly, for example, in this situation when you're passing by a train or driving your car or whatever. I want this feeling of something that can do the job in this split second. It doesn't take a long time for the brain to kind of connect to it. It just kind of grasps you and goes directly to you, and you're already attracted to this object, even though that you're not aware of what the object is exactly. We try to depict something that visually attracts somebody, and they can have an experience without having an explanation about it. I usually use this reference most of the time when I try to explain people, like when you look at nature, when you look at something visually beautiful, you don't question it, you kind of enjoy it. If you look to the sky and to look to anything visual, it attracts you and you don't overthink it. That's enough for me how somebody could take in our work. It sucks you in for this split second because all the elements in a way are composed in a correct manner. I believe that if something is composed in a correct manner, either the contrast or the amount of each color or the amount of like a thickness of a line or something, or the contrast of a thicker part and a more detailed part, if it's all composed in a correct way, many people will relate to it. Composing something in a correct way, and then it will kind of do its own job.